So we are reaching at the elicitation and collaboration phase. It means that we have successfully traveled through through the business definition phase, requirements, the solution definition phase, and also we could successfully convince the sponsor that this investment is justifiable, and also the scope and the problem definition and scope was also um, agreed and accepted by all the key stakeholders. If you recollect the RUP part, that recollect those milestone what we have discussed, so it means that we have not only defined the problem, but the problem has been acknowledged and accepted by all the key stakeholders, and they also agree that the proposed solution will solve the problem, or proposed solution will basically help to realize help to realize the idea or the opportunity what we had in our mind, so we can basically implement it successfully. Okay, so this is the basically what we talk about, the reaching to the elicitation phase. And before we even come to the elicitation phase, even getting the funding is not even sufficient. Again, the additional the issues arise during the planning phase, when we are planning for the BA approach, identifying the stakeholders, and preparing for the business BA governance. That includes the stakeholder, their roles, the various kinds of committees that will be that we will be working with, and who will basically be involved in the decisions, who will be involved in giving the guidance, and for so many other roles. So this is what we're talking about. Uh, you know, uh, Reaching to an agreeable level where our planning is acknowledged, understood, acknowledged, and accepted by all the key stakeholders. Along with that, we have also communicated various types of the information what the business analyst will generate when they are performing their task, and how that information will be managed and will be shared. That also we have basically communicated with all the stakeholders well in advance, and they have that pre-notion about what is expected and what is not. Okay, so that way we have successfully completed the planning part, and also we have communicated what BA will do and what he will not do, and you have also communicated what will be the success criteria. That way everyone will have that shared the knowledge about shared knowledge and understanding about the business analyst role within the project. In case any of the stakeholders or any SMEs, project managers, or any other project members have any concern or any issues, they may basically raise them. We can address and resolve them and move forward. So when we reach to the elicitation and collaboration phase, means we have settled most of the project related the concerns and some of the key risk, and we have reached to this stage. At this stage, the stakeholders are bit matured in terms of what is a project objective, what we're trying to achieve, and who will be participating in the project, and what their role will be, and how the project will basically travel through the phases, from different phases, and what is the broad scope of the whole project, you see. So all this basically information, they are well aware of that. And then if anyone is newly joined in between, so you can basically have the additional session to update the person, or update the stakeholders. Okay, so this is what we are basically uh, uh, trying to understand, what is the background when we reach to the elicitation and collaboration phase. The elicitation and collaboration phase, it doesn't happen immediately when the project kicks off. As we already seen, it is basically, we spend uh, significant amount of time and efforts before we reach to this stage. And this stage now, it means we know what we want at the high level, but now we will be meeting all the stakeholders and extract the information from them. We draw forth, or the information is in their within them, but we have to basically create an analogy or create some use some mechanism so that information is basically uh, stakeholders can connect them and can provide you the details. For example, if you give them a 1 2 3 4, then they will say, oh, okay, the 5 6 7 is missing, so that way they can give you the additional information and complete the pictures. So this is what it is when the information or the data is uh, uh, in the dormant phase or in the potentially lying within the stakeholders. So it is our role to um, uh, extract that information and can use them in the project. And here we are talking about, earlier it was only mentioned as a elicitation, but now it is mentioned as a elicitation collaboration, because collaboration is basically it's not basically the role of a stakeholders to give the information to you, or your role is just to extract the information. It is you are collaborating with two different people and um, uh, achieving a common goal. So that's why it is basically mentioned as a elicitation and collaboration. So we all are working together in a team to achieve a common goal, that is implementing a solution, right? Elicitation and collaboration can be planned, unplanned, or both. But well, I would say that it must be planned. Unplanned are very difficult. Unplanned you can maybe use as a for change request, or if you want to get additional details, or you want to confirm some information regarding the existing requirement. Yes, that would be okay. Unplanned also can be considered as in terms of the agile approach. If you are approaching a stakeholder or the owner, and if you need some additional clarifications, or that those could be your the in unplanned or informal way. But otherwise, most of the elicitations are planned. Planned activities, it means that we hold the workshop, experiment with the things, and our survey can be structured and organized in advance. Unplanned activities happen in the moment without notice, so that such as a last minute or just in time collaboration or conversations. This is simply, for example, you go to a stakeholder's desk and you want to have some clarification, and you may just ask him or her, and they may just give you the answer, or they may say that, oh, this is a, they can walk you to your desk and said, oh, you remember last workshop we talked about this, but there was a missing point, and could you please add them? Okay, so those could be your the last minute or unplanned information. Eliciting the business analysis information is not an isolated activity, so it is basically integrated one, and you will basically you are interacting with various team members, and also along with the elicitation you will also performing other work. Okay, now within the elicitation, now how do we how do we handle this elicitation? So there are few tasks which is mentioned here. There are total 5 tasks. One first part is prepare for elicitation. Now remember, the planning BA approach, or the planning and monitoring was for the BA planning for entire project. Here when we prepare for elicitation, it's only preparation for the elicitation activities. It means that we need to basically first understand what what we are going to elicit, and based on what kind of preparations we need, and then we can there are various other preparations are required, along with the setting the expectations, and the what could be the outcomes of the activities, what kind of the techniques we may be using, and the how the elicitation will be executed. Okay, so all that preparations are there. There could be also additional preparations regarding the travel of the key stakeholders, or the paperwork if required, the lodging, boarding, and other things are there. In case if it is a travel is not involved, then if it is audio video conferencing facilities, and even simply if you have the workshop, then maybe other preparations like note, your whiteboard and all those things. So those kind of preparations. So that's what we are talking about, the preparation. And the most important preparation is that business analyst is preparing for the domain, so he must know what is a domain, what he is going to elicit, and what kind of questions are suitable for the sessions. Then we talk about the conduct elicitation. Then in the conduct elicitation, actually we conduct the activities. For example, if you want to conduct, if it is an interview, you are eliciting the requirement through the interview, then you conduct the interview. If you are eliciting the requirement through the workshop, then you conduct the workshop, and so on and so forth. Okay. But when you have conducting these activities individually, then you bring back the data or information with you, and those data you document, but you can't basically um, trust on your understanding or your the ability to capture the data. So what you need to do is that the data what you collect, or the result what you collect through the elicitation activities, those you need to document them. But after documenting, you have to ensure that these results are shared with the respective stakeholders. Means the stakeholders whom you basically elicit the result, you have to send it back and say that based on our communication, this is what you have elicited, please confirm. See, that is what happens in that case. There are the stakeholders get the additional opportunity to review what he has given. If there is a mistake from his side, he can basically review and correct it, and if there is any missing item, he can add that one also at this stage. Okay, so that way the review will help him to enrich the document. And second part of that, basically he can help the business analyst to see if the business analyst made any mistake in capturing the information, or in whether it is incorrect or inconsistent or incomplete. So he can basically ensure that the gaps are filled up, and then the document what he will review and confirm, those are at high quality. It means you have elicited, you have documented, you send it back, and then he gives his feedback, then you enrich it and again send it back, and then once it is approved final stage, then that is what you are having is a confirmed elicitation result. So that is a high quality. In case of RUP, if you recollect what we say, the testing is not in one isolated activity of at certain stage, but it is throughout the project life cycle. So this is the same thing. It is also verifying and validating that what information we have is a correct one and complete and consistent, and that is how we improve the overall quality of the, not only the requirement, but quality of the project and the delivery of the project. Okay, so this is how we will basically incorporate the verification and validation process at every stage. Then we have to say that communicate the BA information. So here we have to basically communicate the business analysis information to all the relevant stakeholders. Earlier you thought we have done that one, but that was only to the individual stakeholder whose requirements you have elicited and whom you need to basically confirm. And but at this stage you are putting all these requirement together in a structured format, and then that you collectively will present those requirement to the stakeholders. For example, I'll give you, you have met the operations manager and you have elicited the requirement for fund transfer. But when you have elicited the requirement for the fund transfer, he has given you the process, the auditor has given you his processes, and then you will find you met the regulatory person, he has reviewed it, right? But when you got the basic information from the operations manager, you have documented, send it back to him, and he's reviewed it, and he's given his input, and you have updated it, and then that again enriched document you again send it back, and after reviewing, when the document reaches to his satisfaction level, he approves it, right? That is a confirm. So that document is reached to the confirmation stage. But again, the same document, if you are sharing with the auditor or the regulator, with the different team members, at the time they will also basically provide their inputs, which you will incorporate, send it back to them and confirm. So and so forth you will have to do with all these stakeholders. At later stage, you have to collectively present this requirement to all the team members, and then see their feedback, their inputs, and their what we call obtain their approvals. Okay, so the communicating the requirement at this stage is slightly different than earlier stage. Okay, so we'll have to just little bit of ensure that when we communicate at the time, we have the document is reached to a mature, it's a different level, and it is enriched, it is matured, it is consistent, it is correct, it has used the right terminologies and the concepts, and presented in a proper form. It could be a template or formal, that way it is. Then the last task in this mentioned is manage the stakeholder collaboration. In this case, we have to ensure that manage the stakeholder is not only related to the eliciting the requirement, because at that time we are in what we call we are basically collaborating with the stakeholders heavily, but what we say is that we want to maintain the stakeholders enthusiasm throughout the project. Okay, so that, and then we have to plan and manage our strategy so that stakeholders remain enthusiastic about the project, and you will have that positive atmosphere within the project and outside the project, so that you get a what we call a support for your the activities, and uh, your and your I mean your you will get a support basically. Then we talk about the core concept model here, and let me just talk about the core concept model here. Here, if you see the change, it means the act of transformation in the response to the need. In this case, when you are looking at this stage, change in the form means we use the variety of elicitation technique to fully identify the characteristic of the change, including the concerns that stakeholder have about the change, and the change itself may determine the appropriate types and the extent of the elicitation and collaboration. So here we'll have to basically use the various techniques to not only elicit the requirement, but also understand the concern about the change. That is one part. This is the time when you are meeting the stakeholder one to one and establishing the relationship, and you will basically get better insight of the stakeholder and his concern, and again the feel for the overall solution, and in case if they have any concern, so you can pay a close attention to that, because if they could be a potential risk as well. So that is important for us to basically understand and address. The change itself may determine the appropriate types and the extent of elicitation and collaboration. So it means that it could be appropriate types. Okay, it means that the change could be buying the official product. You have to basically analyze, you know what you want, and you reach to the conclusion that this is a possible solution, and when you have defined a solution, then you will know what is a possible way of approaching the what we call solution, right? So you could, this is a time you can also see what are the different ways you can what we call achieve your goal. And also, in case if you are planning for elicitation and collaboration, see, there are two things. When you define the solution scope, at the time there may be a discussion that the project can be implemented, the solution can be basically implemented by you know uh, buying and customizing off the shelf product. So at the time, broadly you know what you want and which are the products available in the market. So at the time you may not need to basically go through the detailed elicitation, but definitely if you are looking for the customization in case the solution may not need, so this is a time then you may need a different type of elicitation activities. If you are basically looking at building the solution from the scratch, then you will have a different type of elicitation activities, whereas you'll have to define each and every requirement from the scratch. But in the case of product, you will have the features and functionalities defined, then you will have to see how they work and does it match to do they match to our current requirement, or do we need to customize them further. That is the basically message they're trying to give. In terms of the need is like a problem or opportunity. In this case, what we have to do is that we have to see, we elicit, confirm and communicate the needs and supporting business analysis information. Okay, uh, that is through the elicitation process. As elicitation is iterative and incremental, the understanding of the needs may evolve over a period of time. That is so very true, because at the beginning you may have a different view of the solution, which is at a very high level, and when you start basically eliciting the requirement, or you get to the detail level, you may find the information which is different, and or you may discover some additional details, and that can basically have an impact on the project itself or the solution. And that is basically evolving over a period of time. So the what we call is whether the requirement is matured or not matured, that is a part what it is mentioned here. In terms of the solution, it is elicit, confirm and communicate necessary or a desired characteristic of the proposed solution. Now, here it is requirements are nothing but the what we call necessary and desired characteristics of the solution, right? So that is what we have to basically elicit. So we elicit, confirm, communicate the requirement or the features or the functionality of the desired character of the solution. So that is basically prime goal during the elicitation and collaboration. In terms of the stakeholders, we manage the collaboration with the stakeholders who participate in the business analysis work, and that is so very true, and this is the most critical part. All the stakeholders may participate in a different role and at different times during the change. Okay, so you may also find that the stakeholders basically may participate in a different roles at a different times during the change. So it means that somebody is basically providing the information, somebody may be reviewing it, someone may be confirming it, somebody may be signing off, like that. Okay. So we'll have to basically understand and collaborate with the stakeholders accordingly. The value it means the worth, importance or the usefulness of something to a stakeholder within the context. In this case, we talk about collaborate with the stakeholders to assess the relative information provided through elicitation and apply a variety of techniques to confirm and communicate that value. So it's very clearly it is talking about we collaborate with the stakeholders to assess the relative value of the information provided through the elicitation. That is basically trying to basically scope those requirement for the for its relevance. So we will have to, end of the day, we have to basically assess whether the requirements which is provided by these stakeholders have some value and some relevance for the project, and then if they are not, then you have to see whether they are part of the scope or they are not. In case if they are not part of the scope, then you may have to discuss with the stakeholders and communicate with them if their requirements are the need or desire category. In case they are in the desire category, then you may want to basically store them as a future requirement, and when the solution is implemented, when you need to enhance the solution and enhance and enrich, at the time you may want to review those requirements. So this is what we have to ensure, that each and every requirement has a value, and it's not only the value for the solution, but also they also have a value, they also contribute towards the organization's overall goal, so that's what we need to say. And we use the various techniques to confirm and communicate this value. That is basically during the requirement and the prioritization process we will address this part again, okay, when we are talking about how to prioritize the requirement. Then in terms of the context, we talk about apply a variety of elicitation techniques to identify business analysis information about the context that may affect the change. Now you may have to find there are varieties of elicitation techniques, but we'll have to find out the appropriate technique suitable for that context, and basically elicit the requirement, okay. And when you are talking about the context, you have to basically ensure that we it means the team, including the stakeholders, understand the context, and basically that that understanding is basically is a part of our elicitation process, so that we don't go out of the context, or we don't go out of the scope while while doing this, while eliciting and collaborating with the stakeholders, okay. Then we have this is a diagram which is mentioned here. This is for the overall the chapter. If you see the inputs, they're the need, the business need, so we know what is a problem or opportunity, so our the elicitation will basically directly linked to the need, and then we have a business analysis information, so that is basically help us out to understand how the informations are captured and how they will be stored. Then we have is a stakeholder engagement approach. We will know who are the stakeholder we will be engaging, and how we will be engaging, and what are their preferences, okay. And the BA performance assessment will talk about what are our deliverables and how we are planning, what are the success criteria, okay. So these are your inputs. The task here, as we already discussed, the prepare for elicitation, conduct the elicitation, confirm elicitation result, communicate BA information, manage stakeholder collaboration. So these are the tasks will be covered under elicitation. Output you will have, first is elicitation activity plan. So after you prepare for the elicitation, you will have the activity plan that you can implement during the elicitation. Then in the 4.2 you will have elicitation result, means after you conduct the elicitation you will have result with you, that information or the data, diagrams, designs, whatever you may have, you will have that information. But that is not confirmed, because you have received it, you come back to your desk and you document them, right? And that document, once you document them, you send it back to your stakeholder, that is the 4.3. When you send it back, that information to the relevant stakeholders, they will review it and provide their feedback if necessary. Then if you need to update, you will update as per the feedback, and again send it back to their review. Once they reach to the satisfactory level, then the requirements are confirmed. So that is your 4.3, that's output. And 4.4 basically business analysis information communicated, means all the requirements you what we call put it into a structured format, and those are communicated to all the relevant stakeholders, and we get the collective view and also collective feedback from all the stakeholders, and at the end they will be those feedback will be incorporated and again presented back to them, and finally they are what we call the requirements are basically approved, okay. And stakeholder engagement, this is basically what we talk about. We will have a plan, a strategy, and the plan how we will basically keep the stakeholder engaged and interested throughout the project. So this is basically, I'm spending a lot of time here just to give you the background, because this is a key task for a business analyst, and I mean, all of them are key tasks, but from BA's perspective, I would say most of the BA's perspective, this is the primary task, which actually I don't agree. I see that all the tasks are equally important, but as now commonly it is a common understanding that elicitation is the most important task. So that is basically background. Okay. Question? If no questions, I'm going to stop here for a 10 minutes break. We'll take a little early break and then we'll come back, because once we start the prepare for